You ought to be careful that you don't then think that for God's glory to be witnessed in your life, it will be by you going from being poor to then being rich.
That's true.
Because that is to diminish the core of why God has created you. So what he had to teach me is that I have not created you to be the provider. I am the provider. I am the source. I am the one who is at the root and the foundation of all things, and you have to trust in that I'm the one that is going to take care. Even if people are disappointed in you not knowing whatever that is, that's okay. It's a part of the journey. I sat for 2 years at home and people used to come and laugh and crack jokes like, what are you doing with your life? Like, what are you, you're sitting at home, what are you going to become, and all those things. And you receiving all those things, yet knowing that, I'm just trying to be obedient to the voice of God. I need to look forward to nurturing that in my children, but even nurture that in my siblings, nurture that in my little cousins, where when they are having different ideas of what they want to do, or when they don't have an idea of what they want to do, I try not to be the person to shut that down or to press on them to figure it out at 19 years old, 20 years old, 21 years old.
Now you know that's something that you have to look out for in your kids.
Because my babies, wherever they are, Lord, praying.
Let's find the husband first. Let's wait for that.
Also, because success in itself is not measured by the applause. It's not measured by the numbers, the money. It's not measured by that.
That's true.
Success can be somebody who's sitting at home and they're helping out their parents and they're being useful in the home. It doesn't have to look the same for all of us. But I think when we've made an image of what success should look like, we miss out on what God has placed in each and every single person. Because for those who God has not placed something that will be seen outwardly, where people will clap, where there will be an audience, we deem that person isn't successful. And having to disappoint a lot of people along the way. There was a bit of trauma in different areas, in different places. And so I used school as my escape to be who I really am.
She would be
I was a rebellious child.
She was rebellious,
I was in a friend group and a couple of my friends got expelled. I don't know if they were expelled or suspended. And I was the only one that wasn't. And it was...
When you're in high school, it seems as though everyone who's actually already doing life in their 20s is like milestone after milestone. This one's getting a car, this one's getting married, this one's...
That's right. There being a pressure to perform in the academics. I spent my last 2 years of my high school life just... What was I doing? Hi guys, and welcome to Truth Be Told, a faith-based podcast where we dive deep into real stories and honest conversations. I'm your host, Bonge. This is the podcast where we explore life's biggest questions and challenges through the wisdom of Scripture and the Word of God. Get ready for honest discussions, heartfelt reflections, and uplifting encouragement as we navigate our journeys together. And of course, a couple of laughs. Let's dive deep into today's episode. Hi guys, and welcome back to the Truth Be Told podcast. I am your host, Bonge, and I know you're listening to this and you're like, girl, where have you been? We are months and months into 2025 and a lot has happened, a lot has changed, a lot has been happening. And if you're watching on video, you can probably tell that I have somebody on right here with me who I'm going to introduce in a little bit. Some of you guys have probably already seen her. Some of you guys message me and tell me, oh my gosh, there's this person that I saw on your TikTok who looks like you. Do you know each other by any chance? And then I respond and I'm like, I don't really know her. Not really familiar with her. But yeah, so I do have a co-host for this episode and she's going to be with us for a little bit. We're going to see where the Lord takes us with this. If you do know us and you're watching this, I would advise that you watch this with ears that are looking to hear the Lord, okay? If you are learning some new information about the both of us in this episode and you're like, when, how, it's okay? Yes, shout out mom, dad, hello. Okay, so I'm going to introduce my co-host. My co-host is, she's going to introduce herself.
Hello everyone, my name is Asemahle. I am her younger sister. And
okay, so let me actually ask her a question. Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Asemahle. I am 20 years of age and I'm 6 years younger than her. Yeah, and basically I just go to school and I create content at the same time, which is not a copycat of her, but like that's what I do essentially. And
yeah, so the difference between the both of us is she's more on the academic end of things. And so as you probably saw, the topic of the conversation that we're going to be having today it's going to be centered around things, the differences that are, leaning into that transition between going from high school and going into the young adult life, because she's in that, like, okay, I just got there, like transitioning into that young adult life. And I'm not going to mention my age. If you know, you know.
She's old.
If you know, you
She's
know.
pretty old.
I'm really... I consider myself a baby. Every single time somebody asks me, like, oh yeah, I'm one person that really considers myself very young, like very young. So yeah, but I'm at that point or stage of life where I have moved from being... I'm still a young adult, but I'm more like, now I work, I'm no longer in school. I am still studying, but I'm no longer in school. I've kind of moved from that place. And so we want to talk about those experiences, because also the questions that I've received have been around me having taken a gap year that was very much unplanned, a gap year that was very much not the plan. And she also took a gap year. Mine lasted for about 2 years, and then I went into school, and then I dropped out, and then all of the things. So we're going to be talking about all of that. So if you're in that place in your life, this conversation is going to be likely beneficial. But I think the first question that I would like to ask her is... Hold on, I got my notes. Okay, here it is. What did you expect life after high school to look like? Or let me say this. How was life after high school for you?
I feel like for me, it was very different from what I'd expected it to be, because I thought it was going to be like everything happens like this, because I feel like everyone makes it seem like as soon as you're out, you go to university, right after, then your life just begins. Like everything is so straightforward, like right after. And I remember I had already gotten a university acceptance by the time I was right after high school. And when I was waiting for my results, and I was like, okay, I don't know if I passed, and I was really scared because I had no idea. I had such a tense last year of high school. So when the results came out,
we kind of want that tense part of high school. Maybe we can just talk about the last 2 years, or just the main parts of it, because I think we had different experiences in high school. First of all, as two people raised in the same household, a lot of the time there's the misconception that because you're raised under the same parenting, that you both have the same experiences, same experiences of your parents, same experiences of life, same experiences of opportunities, and that was most certainly not the case. And also our personalities are most certainly
Very
different.
different.
They're different in their own ways, and so trying to navigate that. And we're 6 years apart in age, and there's she had
are you sure it's not 7?
I think it's 6.
Okay.
It should be 6.
I'm just checking.
And she
was born in the 90s, so I'm just checking.
I love being a 90s kid. Shout out. But also we had different experiences, and we also had she had a different version of my parents than I did, just like all our other siblings. And so I think we can just lean into this first of all, where what was your high school experience like? Or what do you remember, or what stuck with you that you remember from your high school experience?
I just remember that I didn't want to go to the high school I went to.
Yeah.
So, because we went to different high schools. She went to an all-girls. I went to a mixed school. Not necessarily that I didn't want to go to a mixed school. I just thought I was going to an all-girls school.
Yeah.
So the first year of high school, I was in complete shock. Like, oh, I didn't expect to be here. And my parents had made a completely different choice. So I was like, oh, okay. But then I feel like it was God's plan, because the people that I met and the experiences that I had everything felt so connected, because I feel like God really knew that I was quite a shy kid, and coming from a big family, I'm the last born. I don't speak out much. I'm very like timid and shy. So when I went there, it was like, oh, and I had no hair, so I was bald. When I went to high school, the first day I was bald. I remember the teacher said
we were bald for like... Listen, our parents had us bald for, like, I remember even my little sister, my little cousin that comes between the both of us, like, we were like twins. We were bald from like, I just remember with us sticking our heads out after getting a fresh haircut and just allowing the air, just the wind just to that breeze over that fresh head. Yeah.
So I remember, like, my first day, the headmistress came to our class, because we were like, oh, it's your first day. And she said to me, I was bald, so I kind of looked like our dad. And she said to me, "Oh, young man, please may you move that chair over there." And she pointed at me, and I stood up, and she saw that I was wearing a skirt, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, sorry. You can sit down. It's okay." And I was like, it was so embarrassing. It was my first day. I've been there 5 minutes. It was literally like terrifying. And then so from then on, I feel like and on top of that, I was put into, they hadn't screened our classes on like the first week, so they just split us in half. They didn't like say, "Oh, smart kids this way." So I was put into the second class, and there were only 2 classes, so I was like, no man, I passed. Like, how am I in the second class? But then being in the second class was like being her class. I feel like you guys were class clowns, and that's how the second class was. Like, those people were like laughing, and that's how it was. So it made me like come out of my shell a little more. But I really do feel like I wouldn't change anything, because I did have the chance to change. I think in Form 4, I think they said I could change, and then I said no, because I feel like I had grown so much. I'd become so independent. I could speak up for myself, and then I became deputy head girl. And it was like I loved high school. I really enjoyed my experience. I feel like I wouldn't change it for anything. Yeah, I really wouldn't change it for anything. I don't know about yours.
Yeah, because I feel like for me, I went to an all-girls school. So, and to be honest, I have always been the interesting child. Because going into high school, I started off in the first class. So I had pretty high grades going from primary school to high school. Pretty high grades. Okay, cool. And I think also at that time, I always knew that I'm not the high achiever kind of child. You know what I'm saying? The one that's like, oh, I got to make sure I get the best grades. That's never been me. And I think also coming from a background where our older siblings were more on the academic side of things. So our parents already had that, very high expectations when it comes to our academics. So for me, I just never saw, like, sometimes as a child, you look at what your siblings have been, and that for you is your gauge of what you're going to, like, how you're going to do. So you're like, oh, I want to do better than my older sister or my older brother. Or it's like, oh, you look at that and it's like, I want to aim for that. That wasn't me. I didn't hope for none of that. I was just more like, okay, let's just get through this. Like, I went to school and I just look forward to just fooling around, to be honest, having fun, making friends and all the things. And also because I have a huge personality, so like cracking jokes, and also because my experiences even outside of school were, I think in a lot of ways there was a bit of trauma in different areas and different places. And so I used school as my escape to be who I really am. Because there, no one really knew who I was, and I could get to be the version of me that nobody knew. Of course, there were people that I came from school with. My best friend was one of them. We both went to the same school, but I used that as an opportunity to be who I wanted to be. And so who I was, for example, at school, and who they got to experience at home was a completely different person, right? Because of the different circumstances, and I use school as, that place where I can just do all and just crack jokes and all the things. And so, and obviously, part of those cracking of jokes was a coping mechanism that I, to mask some things that were happening. But that was mainly most of my high school experience. Like, I dropped down from the first class to the second class. No, I dropped down from the first class to the second class. That was a huge disappointment to our parents, because it's like, I don't know about huge, but I'm sure it was a disappointment with any parent. You have an expectation for your child, right, to do well in school. And so for me, and my dropping down was, I dropped down on purpose. Like, I didn't try to hold on to the first class. Like, I didn't say, oh my gosh, hopefully I stay. No, I said,
it was deliberate.
Yeah, I said, I'm not really fighting this thing. You know what I'm saying? I knew I could do so much. I knew I could stay in the class. I knew I could work hard because I'd done it before.
Yeah.
But I was also I just saw how much fun the other classes were having, and the pressure of being in the first class and all of those. And that's the same kind of mentality that I've maintained all my life. Like, even till now, in the things that I do, I have the mindset that I only work hard at the things that which I deem as important for me to do. Like, I am very selective of what requires my effort and what requires my attention. And that was always, at the time, I didn't know it was strategic, but I just leaned toward that. So I was always that kind of child who was like, I leaned into just being the average child. If I needed to work hard, I would do the work. But if I didn't need to put in that much work, it's just not happening.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, she definitely was like that. I feel like you were also like more on the, you're more independent, I think, than most of us, in terms of she would just do things that like, you're just wondering how is she able to do that? But like, it's because like, I feel like the confidence that you have, even though it's like, I remember like, even when we would be doing things like in general, like around the house, it's like she was more the unconventional path type of person to say. She would ask questions, say, wait, they say we should do this, why do we have to do it? Why are we like, what's, she would be the,
I was a rebellious child.
She was rebellious. Yeah, she was.
I was the rebellious child because I asked questions. I questioned things. I spoke up. I didn't really hold back. And I think that I've always been that kind of person. But one thing that I've noticed is, for me, it was more so a feeling that I don't know. I think I kind of became that out of trying to be what I needed. And so by that, I did that to try to be that which I felt like I needed. And so I would be that, for example, for my little sister, because I'm like, okay, I feel like I need to step in and for my little sisters. And so that was but let me tell you something. That did not, you know what I'm saying? If you know, if you're that sibling in your family, whatever, the one that speaks up, the one that's, you know what I'm saying, the amount of trauma that you're going to pack up for yourself is something. But you see now how, the Lord has used that now growing up to being in position to speak. And, lately I've been receiving comments where people will say to me that, they feel like I'm a big sister and things like that. And that makes me so emotional because I'm like, oh my gosh, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's cool because it's these are the things that matter most to me. But what I would love to know is, what were you told about what life after high school would be like? What did people tell you around that, what it would be like, and versus what it was?
I feel like people made it seem like there were two different sides. There was a side of people who said, adulting is hard, you're gonna have a tough time, it's gonna kill you, like you're gonna go through it and be like, why didn't I just stay as a kid? Like, why didn't I just stay and be a kid? And then there was the other side, which was like, no, it's great. It's like, no one is telling you anything. You're just doing your own thing. Don't worry. No one cares. And it was like, I feel like I was like, oh, okay. So when I got out of high school, it was like, I thought everything was going to be quick. So I felt like, because when you're in high school, it seems as though everyone who's actually already doing life in their 20s is like milestone after milestone. This one's getting a car, this one's getting married, this one's getting, you already have kids, you're already graduating, so it felt like, okay, there's just, you step.
Did you think you were gonna go into a gap year?
No, I didn't think so. I didn't think so. So because of that last year, I wasn't sure if I would pass. That was my biggest fear. Like, I was praying every single day, like, because my A-level final year, mentally, I was elsewhere. Like, I was really going through something. So I was just like, I don't know if my results are going to reflect anything at all. So even though I'd gotten into the school that I wanted to get into, I had the placement and everything. And I remember we got our results a week before I was supposed to leave. And when I got my results, I was like, I passed.
Yeah.
And it was shocking because then they said, come to uni. And I was like, after the year I just had, no, it was a lot. I was just like, I don't think I'm ready for that. I don't think mentally. And she knows I'm more of I really academic, like I will push, I will read books, I will, and work different in that way because she puts the same effort into her sports and fitness. But then that effort is what I put into academics. So when I realized that the last year had been so difficult for me, I was like, no, I don't think I can do it again. I'll have to wait. I have to wait it out. And I feel like that it was an easier decision to make because she had made the same decision. So I didn't feel like anyone was, I did feel some kind of pressure to be like, well, you should be going back to school. Like, what are you doing? But then I appreciate the fact that you went through that. So that I could have at least a map to say, no, but you can do that. You can do that. It's fine.
Yeah, because I feel like I think in my experience going from high school to being in an unplanned gap year, I think initially I knew what I wanted to do, and I always had dreams very, very early on because obviously I was more on the sporty end of things. I've always played sport all my life with my other little sister. We played sport all our lives. So I always knew I wanted to do something sporty, but where the pressure was for me was there being a pressure to perform in the academics, right? There being a pressure to perform in the academics. I spent my last 2 years of my high school life just, what was I doing? Yeah. I spent the last 2 years of my academic schooling I was working, of course, but I spent a lot of it experiencing what high school is like having friendships, nurturing those friendships. Like we used to go on little trips and go grab some food after school, but again, as I'm saying, I was that child where I would do a couple things, but I know where to draw the line when it comes to, what I'm saying? I'm not about to cross the line because I know the parents we have. So, I'm saying there was boundaries there. So there are certain things where it's like, everybody could be saying they're going there. I'm going to go there, but I'm probably going to come back earlier than everybody else because I'm not getting caught up in no nonsense. So that was always the kind of person that I was like. I just always kind of got out of trouble at the very last minute. I remember even one time I was in a friend group and a couple of my friends got expelled. I don't know if they were expelled or suspended, and I was the only one that wasn't. And it was the one time that I was supposed to go with them. I'm not going to explain where we were going. Those that were there. Yeah, and it was the one day because I was very much a people pleaser. Like I was very much like what everybody else is doing, just go with the flow. So the one time that I decided, I wasn't going to go because I was that person where it's like, I'm going with them, but I'm doing nothing. Like I'm that friend. I wasn't the beautiful friend. I wasn't the one that's looked at as,
please.
I'm saying, oh my gosh, wow, and all of that. Like it's okay. You know what I'm saying? And I'm grateful because it I'm saying it saved me for a couple of things because I wasn't the person that the guys are picking out and saying, oh, her, I was more so the one where they're piecing to get, can you get me to, can I talk to your friend? So. Can you organize for me?
Can I have a number?
Yeah. So that was more who I was. So even in these things, I was just following the crowd. Like I wasn't really thinking like, I knew that there's certain things that I'm just not doing. Like, cool, that's your go ahead, but I'm just not doing certain things. And so the one time that I decided not to go with them was the one time that they came late, something happened and people were slapped in the car park. People were, what I'm saying? I woke up the next day, got to school and it was a story. And everybody was coming to me because they knew that those were my friends. It's like, how did you manage to get out of
that?
Yeah, like how did you escape? How did you? Yeah. And I feel like even from then you see the little things where God is like, okay, I'm gonna keep you. You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm gonna keep you. You got a bit of, but I'm gonna keep you. And there were just those little things, and that's why sometimes I'm like, I pray that my kids are not like me, like wild, like I was, because, I don't know what I'm gonna do because I was a bit on the, what I'm saying, and that was also because there were things that were happening on the other side that made me rebellious in that way to explore, to try things and to figure things out on my own, especially for questions that we didn't have anywhere to go ask and things like that. But like I said, there was always a boundary that was not to be crossed. But I think going back to what I was saying, I feel like I've always been that person that, although going from high school to being a young adult, there was always a pressure, that academic pressure, that pressure to go into university, that pressure to start university and all that. And we did all the applications. And I think it's every parent's dream and goal, of course, for their child to perform well. And for where we come from, school is the route that everybody knows. Like, what I'm saying? And obviously, your parent wants the best for you. They're not. And the path that I took was one that had not really been done the way that I wanted to do it. So there was no experience or evidence that it could work out, right? So it was there was no evidence to say, we've seen that so and so do it. So, and I think this is important because a lot of the time, especially for us as children from African families, there's a pressure when you want to do whatever God has placed in you, whatever He has put in your heart, whatever He has put in your soul, whatever He has created you for. And there's a pressure that comes with doing what God has called you to do and honoring what maybe your parents want you to do or what you've seen people, the route that you've seen the people around you take. And for somebody like me who was a people pleaser, what my older siblings did set the bar for the path that I was going to follow. So I looked to those and everybody else around me to say, the things at which they've done, kind of gives you've seen what it has led to. But I think the Lord had put this in my heart very early on, where I just never understood why life had to, why everybody had to follow the same route.
Yeah.
That's where I had questions to say, I don't understand why we can't, because obviously if we're all following the same route, it leads to the same result.
Yeah.
And I empathize with the generation that they were in, or, our parents, the generation that they come from, because what they knew is what worked.
Yeah.
They didn't have the luxury that we do. I think even our older siblings, they didn't have the luxury to have, to be able to maybe take this and take that, have a lot more options. But I think the luxury part of it plays a role. But I think I also do not want to take away from the fact that even in my case, or in our case, I wouldn't say it was, I think there was a privilege there, but there wasn't like a, because even in choosing what I chose to do when I decided to take up, doing this social media thing and doing this content creation thing and doing this fitness thing, the pressure and the gruesome experience that was that time of trying to actually start to do the thing for me was like the most, like, childhood was already traumatizing on its own.
Yeah.
Teenage years were already something else on their own, and then you get into your young adult, like being a young adult, and it's like, and everybody's telling you got to just do what gets you a job.
Yeah.
And
they say that a lot.
Yeah. And I used to wonder, I'm like, so everybody that's here, that's working, they're just working to get a job. Like, that's the thing. And because we're coming from high school or places where you're told to dream and to become this and you're going to become all of that, and then you get into the real world and it's like, actually, that's not really the case. You just need to do you don't have the, to say, oh, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that. You just do what's going to get you. You don't have, if you want to do, I'm saying, look, your passions, your hobbies, that comes secondary. So that was always a challenge for me, because
your
I did not.
And your joy, your mental health comes third, second. Money comes first.
Yeah.
That's what you're
and
told.
Security comes first. And there was always a challenge in that to say, how does that work? Because you would think that, oh, your joy, is somewhere up there, and obviously we can't take away from the fact that when you have nothing going on for you, of course, the people that love you worry for you, because they want you to become something. They want you to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. So there was always that pressure. But I think the thing that I didn't want to take away from was the fact that it did come with having to take a risk, and having to disappoint a lot of people along the way. And I did get to a point where I said, I'm going to pay the price for whatever it is to disobey, what it might seem like disobedience in this place, or in this time, for the I'm going to bear that cost on the other end of that, choosing to be obedient to God. So whatever falls into, I have to choose to obey this voice. And at the time, I didn't even know that it was God. But I said, I need to obey this voice that is speaking in me, because I've spent all my years following what I'm told to do and kind of looking to everybody for what to do and what is the right thing to do. And kind of pushing down that voice. And now I know, pushing down the voice of the Holy Spirit over and over again, because I wanted to stay in that safety net of doing what would please the next person over what He has put inside of me. And so I think for me, the main thing that was a challenge in that time was, for a long time, obviously as a child, a lot of your thoughts and who you are and what you do is guided, and you kind of, you most of your life is spent, go here, do this. You're told what to do and when to do it. And I think also just the expectation and a question that I had during that time was, I didn't understand how one would spend 18 years of their lives, not 18 years rather, but more so, like maybe we could say about 16 years of your life in schooling system, and then having to go, or there being an expectation to go from that whole schooling system where you're told what to do, when to eat, when to dress, what to do, how to dress, what to say, what to speak. You know what I'm saying? Everything that you're doing is it's under a system. It's guided. Yeah. And then going from that to then going into, okay, now you got to pick for yourself the university degrees that you want. And whatever you're choosing is what's going to dictate what your life becomes for the rest of your life. Like, do you know how, like, I used to think that's insane to think about. Really, it's such a, like, I didn't think how, I couldn't comprehend how that was like an expectation to have on a young person who's maybe 18, 19 years old, because at that time your mind is still developing, like you're still learning who you are. All that what you know about yourself is what was under that system. So the pressure to then know what you're going to do, choose something that is dictating the rest of your life, like that for me, I don't know about you, but that for me was like, I always struggled or wrestled with that. I didn't understand why that had to be that way. And whatever it is that you're choosing, there being pressure to, it has to be the thing that's going to get you a job. You know, if you choose the wrong thing and you don't get a job, you're in trouble. If you choose the wrong thing and it doesn't give you money, you're in trouble. So it's like, and I just could not comprehend what that was like. And yeah.
Do you think that when you decided to go into fitness, initially you didn't go into fitness, right?
Yeah, initially I wanted to study fitness. I applied to a school, and I got accepted. And then I went home and I said, "Hey, I've been accepted to study this." And then the conversation around that was, "Nah," you know what I'm saying? Like,
was it because the degree? What was it? Something
was
that
a
you had
diploma.
chosen, or was it diploma? Had you chosen it? Was it something that you had chosen for them, or that was for you? Like you had
That
decided
that was the more for me thing I had ever chosen in my
okay.
life. Like that was the because it was a fitness diploma.
Oh yeah.
And that was the one time when I was like, okay, because there was all this pressure to like, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And then when I finally came and said, oh, this is what I want to do. And
I
it's
figured
like,
it out finally.
I finally figured it out. Then when I said, okay, this is what I want to do, and it's like, and then all the conversation around that was like, oh, that doesn't get you a job. Fitness doesn't pay. And of course, at the time, it wasn't really the most high paying job.
Yeah.
But for me, the wrestle was always in that money was never the important, and which is kind of crazy to think about when you don't come from money, right? Because when you don't come from riches, the main goal of life, and this is something that we that is engraved in us, not by anybody, but just by the conditions of how you are raised and all of that, that you go through life experiencing, whether it is challenges, watching your parents sacrifice so many things for you to be able to be in school, putting you in the best schools, all of that. You see how much goes into that, the prayers, all that goes into that you see that and you're like, I have to make it for the sole purpose of being able to create a more comfortable life, and a life, because I don't want to, first of all, I don't want to see them continue to suffer in the way that I've already experienced. I want to make their lives easier. I want to make the lives of the people around me easier, but also for my life, I do not want to live a life where I go through the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Sacrificing your happiness for
exactly where you're gonna have to. Of course, sacrifices are gonna be made when you're a parent; they have to be made. But being able to say, okay, from the kind of background or kind of environment that was, if we had this, we would have made life a little different, right? It also would have made our experiences a little different as children. So I think being in that environment where you've seen your parents give the best of everything that they had and give you the very best of it all, and then wanting to build a different life. And so in your mind, you start to think, okay, I've got to make it, right? I've got to make it. I have no choice but to make it. And especially when you've seen the sacrifices, it's like, it would be not because they've put that expectation, but you just naturally feel the pressure to make sure that your life becomes something.
Definitely.
And so in my case, there was a pressure that, you know, I always, and I think maybe this is the way that the Lord made me, that I've always been the kind of person that wants to take care. I want to take care. I want to, you know, help out. I want to do so. That was always a thing. But the flip side of that coin that God had to teach me, and which he just recently taught me, was a part which is like, I understand that, you know, this is the background of whatever you're coming from and all the things. I want you to know that whatever it is that you're coming from, I have allowed for that to be the way that it is. You know what I'm saying? This is not something that happened and I was not unknowing of. It was because I allowed for that to be the circumstance, for that to be the situation, for that to be the story around how you are raised, or how your siblings are raised, or how the life is around that. And I've done that so because we are created by God for his glory. It is still for my glory. Even that suffering, that pain, that poverty, whatever, it is all for my glory. But the thing is, you ought to be careful that you don't then think that for God's glory to be witnessed in your life, it will be by you going from being poor to then being rich. Because that is to diminish or to belittle the core of why God has created you. So what he had to teach me is that I have not created you to be the provider. I am the provider. I am the source. I am the one who is at the root and the foundation of all things. And you have to trust in that I'm the one that is going to take care. And if I choose to use you to take care or to help in these areas, it is not because you have become the source. Because then that's what I then did, because it became a a burden over my shoulders that I placed on my own shoulders, not because anybody said, but I placed that burden on my shoulders to want to take care, to want to fix, to want to create a better life for everybody around me. And I put that burden over my shoulders, and he had to wrestle me to even get that off, because I was like, no, Lord, what are we going to do? Like, I'm like, Father, no. Like, I was refusing, fighting. So when I started making money, and I wasn't making as much money as I had been, I started to panic, because I'm like, okay, but there's this and that. And having experienced a part of my life where there was a time in my life where I've known what it is to not have to look at my bank account, to go from not having anything, because I started working in high school. I started picking up jobs from high school. So even that independency was, and I get that mostly from our dad's side, that independent thing of just, being a self-starter, do something, put things together. Like, I was selling shoes in school. I was selling things. I was running side hustles in school because it's like, you know what I'm saying? So that was already in me and running. So I think what would have been beautiful, and, because our parents were very busy, they didn't have time to see all these little things and all of that.
Very true, yeah.
But what would have been beautiful is if they had seen that about me and nurtured that entrepreneur spirit in me. Who knows where I would be in my life now, but where we all would be in our lives now, because then we would have less fear in going into that path or into the unknown.
But at least you having that realization also means that when you have your own kids, now you know that's something that you have to look out for in your kids.
Because my babies, wherever they are, Lord, praying. But I look forward to, like, I see those little things.
Let's find the husband first. Let's wait for the husband first, actually.
Because he who
has
finds.
To find you,
come on now. But I think I look forward to now nurturing those things in my children one day. And I think the Lord allowing me to have this experience now has allowed me to not only look forward to nurturing that in my children, but even nurture that in my siblings, that in my little cousins, where when they are having different ideas of what they want to do, or when they don't have an idea of what they want to do, I try not to be the person to shut that down or to press on them to figure it out at 19 years old, 20 years old, 21 years old. And more so, I come off in the route of, it is expected for you not to know what you want to do with your life. It's okay for you not to know what you want to do for the rest of your life, because at the core of who you are created to be, it does not lie in your grades, nor does it lie in what your strengths have been. It lies in what God created you for. So that's the true anchor of what you will be. So you not knowing it is not something to fear. It's not something to, even if people are disappointed in you not knowing whatever that is, that's okay. It's a part of the journey. I sat for 2 years at home and people used to come and laugh and crack jokes like, what are you doing with your life? Like, what are you, you're sitting at home, what are you going to become, and all those things. And you receiving all those things, yet knowing that, I'm just trying to be obedient to the voice of God. And seeing the people that you looked up to at that time be the same people that would tell you that, this is not going to, this is not going to work out, or this is going to fail.
That reminds me of Noah. Low-key, if you think about it, because when he didn't know, he had the realization that the flood was coming, and he didn't know that there was no sign of any rain or any forecast to say, there's going to be a flood. And when I was reading this in Hebrews, it was to say that the faith that you had at the time, even if it was that mustard seed of, no, but I think that it's going to work out. I really do believe that God has led me to do this. I feel like that is exactly what Noah went through in his story as well, to say,
and being obedient
and being faithful, to say he's still going to build the ark, even though there's no sign of a flood, there's no sign that your fitness thing is going to work out. There was no sign at the time to say, no, if she started this tomorrow, maybe next week we'll see that there's progress, or like she's making 2 million per hour because of this fitness thing. There was no sign of, I don't know if you had anyone who you looked up to say, or who you could reference to say, so and so did this. So no, guys, I'm just doing like so and so. Because even where we're coming from, there was no one in the same place who was like, there were people who had gone down the same path and not succeeded. I'm not gonna lie.
Not laughing at them. I'm just laughing at the situation.
But yes, you would see them. They'd be like, "Do you want to be like so and so?" Which was awful. But like, also, you knew that with the passion that you had for your fitness, I really do think that the faith that you had in yourself at the time saved you. Because imagine if you had given into like all the people saying, no, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah. And also I think that's good, because you think about the examples that which we, because a lot of us come from backgrounds where, comparison, being compared
That's
to your
true.
siblings and things like that,
Yeah.
or being compared to this child who's doing well was a normal thing, right? So, a lot of the time, the comparisons that were made, you were usually compared to someone who was doing so well.
That's true.
And who was doing excellent, who was excelling in whatever they're doing, and you were more on the, what is going to become of your life, like you're doing this and you're not doing that, blah blah blah. But look at this person; they've done this, they've done that, they've done. And so for me, because also I used to shut that down in me. You know what I'm saying? I had internal anger, but in me, I'll shut that down to say I'm not that person, and I can never be who they are. And I'm never ever looking at somebody else's path and what they've done as my blueprint of what I'm supposed to be. But those words, when you're a child, nurture you, and they instill things in you that make you think, oh, okay, that person is the image of excellence. That person is the image of having made it. That's what I need to become for you to see me as, to love me, or to see me as enough, or having become made something of myself. So you start to view that. But also we did, like as you're saying, we did have examples of people where I think for the most part, you as a person would be made as the example of what your life would be, like the failing of your life, or what it would turn out to be. But I think even for me, there was a point in my life where things started working out for me, when they just started working out. And I remember hearing people talking to one of my siblings and using me as a comparing them to me, to say, oh, look, Bonge's doing this, she's done that, and she's done. And I used to like pray over that, and I'm like, I pray that they would not do that, because this is not the heart behind why we do these things. Also, because success in itself is not measured by the applause. It's not measured by the numbers, you know what I'm saying, the money. It's not measured by that.
That's true.
Success can be somebody who's sitting at home and they're helping out their parents and they're being useful in the home. It doesn't have to look the same for all of us. But I think when we've made an image of what success should look like, we miss out on what God has placed in each and every single person. Because for those who God has not placed something that will be seen outwardly, where people will clap, where there will be an audience for there to be, for them to witness what they're doing, then we deem that person isn't successful. So for me, what it has then taught me, even being here, having been on that other end, where I used to be on the other end of being compared to everybody else in how my life is never going to work out, or being a failure and all the things, and hearing such language, and then wanting to turn that story around, and at some point even wanting to prove those words wrong, then now getting to the other end and realizing the truth of wherever God has placed me, or whatever I've been given it or been entrusted with, even when I'm working and I'm doing all these things, the root of why I'm even able to become is because God.
That's very true.
That is the root. It is not because I'm so special, or I'm so... I fooled around in school. Yes, I cannot take away from the fact that I put my head down. It cannot take away from the fact that there's a season where I lost all my friends. I left my relationship because I said I'm going to turn to God, and I'm going to turn to God for good. Yes, those sacrifices had to happen. But even for those sacrifices to happen, it is God. For those sacrifices to happen, that work ethic, it is God first. So I cannot work as hard. I cannot be intelligent. None of these things matter without God at the core of them, because it is Him who has given those gifts. It is Him who has given that intellect. It is Him who has given that talent, whatever. Those things are given to us. We are entrusted with those things. Even to say given would be the wrong word. We are entrusted with those things. So for me, I can never look at myself and deem, oh, I'm so successful, I'm this and all of that, because all that which I really am is simply because God allowed, simply because of that. And this word is what has anchored me, and many mistakes have been made along the way. So I think for me, seeing for what your life would become, even now going into university, I have a lot more flexibility and trying to be the voice that would encourage you to be slow, to want to decide, to make decisions, to not feel pressure to rush into figuring out what you want to do. If you decide tomorrow and you change your mind, there's no death to that. You know what I'm saying? Like I always say that you cannot ever fail in life unless you're not moving.
That's true.
You can never, ever, ever fail in life unless you choose not to move, because every single person has been put something in them. And some people discover it at 20, some people discover it at 30, some people discover it at 50, some people never discover what they're called to do and what was placed in them, because they use their lives working at every other thing, or they live for other people. So for me, it is take your time and go at the pace that God has given you, and allow that to be the pace that which you follow, or that which you align yourself with to get to the place where he wants you to be, and let that be your anchor over, finishing university in the record time, or getting a job before you're 30, or getting married before you're 30, and all these things these are man-made goals that we've placed for ourselves. But I think when we can nurture whatever's been put in each other and walk and pursue the timeline that God has created for that person, we will see a lot of us progress in much better ways than when we're trying to suffocate them into a position and in a place that which we want them to be in, or we're trying to impose our fears
and our
expectations of what we want their lives to become and what we want to see come from them, and we're trying to impose those things. It might be coming from a good place. It's not always out of ill intent, but we ought to be careful not to suffocate who the person is and who God created in them, while trying to get them to pick a degree, or to choose what they're supposed to be, or choose the job, or you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, I definitely agree with that. I definitely hear you. And I feel like I'm glad that she has that perspective of life, because I needed someone like her in my life, because I feel like even moving away from high school, she's right, it's very difficult to decide to say, okay, this is what I want to do, or this is what I've always been good at, so I think this is what I should do, because everyone tells you, no, but you've been good at physics your whole life, why don't you study this? You've been good at literature your whole life, you should do this. And it's like you feel that push even when there's you can feel that but God is calling me for something else. I don't feel like this is what I'm made to do. So I'm glad that you had that journey, because I feel like even the people who are going to listen to this, who are also going through the same thing and are going through shifts and changes, it is okay to not know at that moment, or it is okay to try and listen to what God is calling you to do, rather than the voices of everyone else around you trying to push you towards something that you're not sure that you even want. Because I feel like it's worse to give up, or to decide that, but I hate this thing, when it's 6 years into your job, you're 6 years into this career, and you're realizing now that no, maybe I should have just
taken my time.
I should have just said back then that, I don't want to do this. This is not what I think God has called me to do.
I think it really is, I think for me, the grace, I think first of all, it is a grace and the mercy of God to even have the knowing that we do have, because we are in a generation where we've been exposed to a lot more than others have been. So with that, I always believe that with that you've been given, or for that which you ought to do better, and treat and teach and train up people with that which you know. At the point at which I dropped out from university, I was done suffocating the voice of the Holy Spirit in effort to try to be obedient to what everybody else is saying over what God is saying. I was done trying to continuously people please, and even being obedient to God over whatever I think I should be doing. And I believe that God had placed my best friend in my life so strategically at that time, because she was the voice for me that was in my ear, that was reminding me. And I remember she said this to me. She said, you need to stop waiting for people to green light your ideas before you execute them. And when she said that, clock it.
That was really insightful.
But when she said that switched something in me, and I believe that the Holy Spirit was speaking through her. And she said, you need to stop waiting for people to say, yes, go for it, do it. Because I used to be heavily crushed by people's no. If somebody told me that you're not doing this, okay, cool, because you probably know much better than I do. You know what I'm saying?
What do I know?
Yeah, what do I know? And I think also, no offense, but I think sometimes even I do believe there's a saying that says indlela ibuza kwabapambili, which means that the journey is asked. I'm doing a direct translation here. You ask the journey. How do I say it? You ask the journey, or the people that are ahead of you. Those are the people that you ask for the way to go. You understand what I'm saying? Because they probably have experienced it. That's good, and I think that's important. But I think sometimes when we have the equation, which is that because somebody is much older, or somebody is much older, that equates to them having the wisdom for the way that which you're supposed to go in your life. I don't think it should naturally translate to that. Because even so, with her journey, I am very I'm very loose in how I advise her, in how I encourage her, because I don't want to encourage her in the path that I want to see. I want to encourage her and nurture what God has placed in her. So even in my words, what I lean into is, I can tell you that I can say, do this, do that, but at the end of the day, the voice that is most important to you is the voice of God. So I want you to lean into your word. I want you to go to God and ask for him to give you the knowing of what you're supposed to do, because that's where your word is going to come from. He might use me to speak to you over what you're supposed to be doing, but I cannot be the voice. I cannot be your God. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I cannot be your God. I'm here to guide and to nurture and to be whatever God wants me to be a vessel. But I should not, I have to hold my words loosely, in that if I say something and you choose to go a different direction, that should not crush my support for you.
I get that.
You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be because you didn't go my way, then I'm not going to support you, because then that means all I was looking for from you was I was looking to control you.
Yes.
I just wanted to see you do what I want you to do.
Yeah.
If you give word and you give, guidance, and you were to choose a different path and say, I heard what you said, but I think I'm going to lean into that. The kind of spaces that we come from, that's not a thing, first of all. You know what I'm saying? That's not, the minute you decide to go the different direction as to what has been said, that's disobedience. You know what I'm saying? So,
and it almost gives a sort of like, if it doesn't work out, that's on you.
Come on now.
Don't come to me now. That's on. I told you. I told you. So don't. So there's not even room for error at that point. There's no support. There's no structure.
Because I tell you, I don't know who it was. Not going to mention names. But there was a person in my life who gave that to me, where it was, oh, you feel like you know better? Go do what you want to do and what you think is best. But when it doesn't work out, don't come back and say, we didn't tell you so.
No.
I'm 19 years old. I'm 21 years old.
Why would you say that?
And it's like, and I remember feeling so crushed.
Yeah.
But also, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness.
Amen.
I did not know that then, but I know it now. Because I know it now to know enough that it does not call to me to then hate that person who spoke like that to me, or who wasn't very welcoming and vocally supportive. Because I think even at that time I used to say to certain people that for me it wasn't so much, because sometimes we think that supporting your child or supporting your sibling or supporting your friend means, put money down, or put this down, or support that can be you saying to somebody, I see you. And I'm rooting for you. And whatever decision you choose, I'm support of who you are.
If it doesn't
I'm
work
there
out,
for you.
I'm here.
I'm still going to be here.
It's okay.
And I'm still going to, I guess that's the love that we get from God, right? Where you get to go and do all the things, and you know that the love remains the same. And so it was only the grace of God and his love that even when things did work out, he did not allow my heart, because this is what the devil wanted to do, to make my heart be hardened toward the people that had not given me that yes, that had not given me that I see you. The people that, because I feel like I didn't only receive I didn't only not receive those words. I did receive some words. They just weren't that. There were some very painful words. And from people that are your whole world. You know what I'm saying? Sure. Like, so there were some very hurtful words and very crushing words.
And I'm sure it's not easy when, now that you have made it, so now that you're successful, those same people come back and be like, oh, wow, like, this is my sister, or this is my friend, or this is my cousin, or look at her now. Yeah. But those are the same people that were demotivating I
tell you, it was the hardest thing for me when I wouldn't deem myself as successful. Okay. But... okay, I receive. But I think when the hand of God began to work like that in my life, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not taking away from the fact that, yes, I did work hard and all the things I did persevere. I'm not taking, because I know people like to tussle and they're like, no, girl, just own it. Girl. Just own it, girl. I hear it. Yeah. But I'm not taking away from that. But I'm saying that when things finally began to work out for me, it still is a hard thing to then see a people that once said or spoke negatively to what you wanted to pursue, and despite what they had said, despite their heavy words, despite their terrible words, you still went and pursued that, and then it worked out, and then now overnight receive support from that same place where, and not, I'm not talking about support that's silent, but support that's pretty loud. And now you have to receive that support as if this wasn't the same place where I once was told harsh words that it won't work out and all the things. And that in itself has been so humbling, and which is why I'm in my flesh. I couldn't. And it's not something that you figure out once and it is a continual thing where you continually crucify your flesh and you deny it of what it wants to do, to be selfish, to revenge, to do as they did to you, to say, oh, well, I told you so. You know what I'm saying? It wants to bring you to that place, because understand that the enemy's goal, as we understand, he comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But his goal is also division. Definitely. Right? So from in your family or in whatever situation it is, if he can create in you that, oh, fine, one of you will make it, and I can just isolate that one, because whatever it is making it, whatever that the definition of that is for you, it is hope for the ones that which are around you. That's right? True. It speaks to something. Then they can go, they have a real living example to go and say, oh, when you dealt with this, how did you overcome it? And then I can point you to the scriptures, and I can point you to what really was the experience and what happened. But what he wants to do is to, if you have that, let me isolate you and make you hate the people, so that it's no longer, because understand the ultimate goal of the devil. He's not after just your riches and you making it. No. What he wants you is to remove you from God. That is the ultimate goal. So whatever, if he can remove you from your family, remove you from your loved ones, make you hate them, make you despise them, make you be angry with them, keep you in the place where you are unwilling to forgive, he's got you. And so for me, I've cried to God many a nights for him to wring my heart of any pain, and to wring my heart of any place in my heart where there's a longing to do as they did to me. Because also I think about, I'm sure there are people in my journey that I must have hurt. That's people true. That might have not been glad in the decisions that I took or whatever that, you know what I'm saying? Who's to say, God knows the ways of my heart. And it is not to say that because I've walked in this way, my heart is pure and my heart is wicked. I needed God for him to bring me to this place where I can see the truth of my heart, and to wring me of my pride that I've always had, to wring me of that spirit in me, and bring me to a place where in the same place that I received those words, I can go and still give love. Not because it's an extension of what I am. It's an extension of the God that is in me. Amen. Is it an extension of Christ who lives in me, the Holy Spirit who lives in me? Because it is only possible through him to be able to give a love in that manner. It is impossible to be able to forgive, to be able to still give love and have joy and things like that. And so,
wait, I have a question for you.
Okay.
I know when we're speaking about obedience in terms of our journeys and listening to God's voice and the pressures of listening to different people speaking about what they think you should do, right? Mm-hmm. And I know that we're speaking about it in the context of our careers and like growing and, what we choose to do with life. I wanted to find out if you think that people are too obedient nowadays in terms of the way that we approach things in general, like relationship. The world is telling us that in a relationship, your boyfriend is supposed to buy you roses every week and give you money for your hair and your nails, and he's supposed to drive a Mercedes Benz, and that's essentially it. Or even in your friendships, to say your friend can't correct you, that's fake behavior. Why would your friend? So do you also think that we're also victims of being obedient to worldly standards of like living in general?
Okay, just repeat that last part for me.
Do you think that we are obedient in terms of the way that... Okay, wait, let me think about what I said. Do you think that we are obedient in general in terms of the way that we live?
Obedient to God?
Obedient to worldly standards?
Do you think that the world is more obedient to worldly standards that have been set?
Yes.
I think I think the times at which we've moved into are very different. I think now, because of the pressure or because of social media and the impact that social media has and how much of life it exposes us to, we are exposed to people's lives in different ways. But also social media gives you a freedom of speech or an opportunity to say or to speak or to share, where there's less room for accountability.
Yes.
There's less room of checking the source of what it is that you're saying. Like, what's the source? Because if I can understand the source, that can tell me whether that is to be received or I should reject that message. But I think social media does that. It has less of where we can be able to see from what people are saying, to sift out what's the nonsense and what's really the thing that should hold weight. But I think it comes back to, as people, I think the foundation being, or the root of it being, if you're not opening up your Bible, the world is going to set the standards of your living.
That's true.
If you're not in your word, the world is going to set the standard of what your life should become. And you will wake up one day with a life that maybe is full, but it is full of everybody else's opinions.
That's
but
very
whatever it's full of what everybody else wants you to become, and not what God has said you should be. Because when we understand that distinction between the creator and the creation, I am creation, God's creation. So the word for what I'm supposed to become and what my life is supposed to be does not come from people. It doesn't even come from my parents first. It comes from God. That is the anchor. That is the foundation. So if that word does not hold weight, you will be easily sifted by everything. You watch a show and somebody's done this, I need to do the same thing. You watch this and the internet we're exposed to so many things. We're exposed to good things, but we're also exposed to garbage.
That's
Sorry
very
to say.
true. That's very
We're also
true.
exposed to garbage. And if you do not know how to discern what is garbage and what is fruit and what is, okay, I can learn from this, you're going to eat from the wrong plate. You're going to eat from the wrong thing. And when you eat of the wrong thing, that is going to bear fruit out of you. It inspires something in you. It produces something in you. So which is why the word teaches us to test everything. Paul teaches us to test everything. What do you test it against? You test it against the word of God. Not your opinions, not your desires, not your thoughts, not what you feel. You test everything against the word of God. So if you do not have the anchor, which is the word, you have nothing to test it against. So if somebody says something that feels like it caters to your flesh and what you want to do and the wickedness of your flesh, or the wickedness of your heart, you will do that thing because you think, oh, this sounds good. This sounds I can't even test what is being said against, again, as I say, the word of my parents, because even they are in their own ways flawed. Their thoughts and their opinions are also coming from somewhere. They have a root, whether they're good or whatever. So at the very root of it, it should be that I test everything that I receive against the word of God. When I test it against the word of God, I am able to then see what is to be left and what's not for me and what is for me. Because at the end of the day, whatever it is that I expose myself to will produce something in me. Yeah.
That's very true.
And I think in line with that, I think it will give an opening to our next episode, which will lean into talking a lot more about what we've been exposed to online and how that has had an impact on our relationships, on forgiveness, on family life, on money, finances, budgeting, which I'm still struggling with, but all these other things which I think are conversations that are necessary to speak about. But I think for today's episode, we shall close it over here. I hope you have enjoyed the episode. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.